Well, we're not used to seeing that kind of a Survivor episode, mano y mano. Yeah. So I'll admit that was entertaining, even though a lot of the stuff that Dominic said was fairly cringeworthy because like that speech he gave at Tribal just yeah, that's the kind of speech that would get you voted out in most situations, but for whatever reason, most of the people there decided to vote on Chris instead of him. Well, in terms of entertainment, I'd say the weaker person did leave, so there's that. Going for Dominic, yeah. Right. Rewinding the tape back to the start of this episode, and then they just start the merge right off the bats. And Jeff makes the comment in his Q&A with Dalton Ross that we don't need that setup anymore. Well, it's true that we don't need it, but it's just another indication that they're just trying to rush this stuff along, you know. There's just stuff that they're trying to put in there, and I mean, like, if they actually, it's not so much for skipping time, it's just to show us what they feel like we actually need to see. But if that's true, why don't they just ditch like the next time or the previously on bits? Because like I don't even watch either of those anymore because the previously on bits are no longer a straightforward what happened at the beginning of last episode and what happened at the end of last episode. Now it's story oriented, and you can get a sense of what happens in an episode based on it. They started doing this, I think, like. I don't know, I think they started doing this sometime around Gabon to Samoa era, but it wasn't really obvious that this new focus was bad until, like, Nicaragua. And then, like, the next time bits, I've just been able to predict so many things about what happens in the next episode that I'm just like, I don't want to know anything. Not just for this show, but like any show, period. Let me experience it without knowing anything. Yeah. Really. I think that's the better way to do it from now on. And I was really glad that they didn't really hype the idea of Stay Purple Strong that often. Oh, sure, Angela and I think one other girl were throwing that idea there, but they seem to be really only doing that as a backup option just in case both Chris and Dominic had an idol. But everyone there seemed to know that at least one of them had an idol, yeah. Of course, no one knows about Michael and Wendell's idol. Yeah, that's not a bruise. My skin turns red pretty easy when you put pressure on it. Right. And all that, yeah. And then Chris's Ghost Island game. Interesting game, and I don't call this putting another idol when you shouldn't, because you can just make the argument, okay, here's an idol for the Merge tribe, huh? I don't think that's, oh my god, unreasonable. I don't. Especially if they rehide this, because Chris mentioned in his interview with Rob Sesternino that they actually took the idol from him. So they might be reusing it, they may not. I don't know. But that was a fairly nice game, and I don't really blame him, for taking the chance, because it's 50-50, and an idol that can only be used at one tribal council, it's not that effective. It has the opportunity to be used at more tribals, you feel better about it. So he got an extra tribal, then lost his vote on the vote afterwards. Well, that's not entirely a bad thing, and even though, sure, it's not a 1 in 13, well, no, 1 in 12 shot of going home if he doesn't have immunity, because he knew he was a target, so it's more like a 1 in at least 4 chance of him going home. And he did mention that based on each particular situation, he would do something different, because, like he said, if both Dominic and Wendell play an idol, I'm playing my idol. If neither of them play an idol, I'm playing the idol. But if only Dom plays the idol, I think I'll risk it. But he has admitted that had he lost his vote immediately, he would have played the idol at this tribal, which makes sense. Yeah. And then that immunity challenge, I actually was surprised that people did as good as they did in that challenge. Because, like, Dominic, I thought he was going to be out way before he was. And then, wasn't there, like, another surprise? Well, oh, the amount of people that got to the last stage. Yeah, that was pretty good. And then Kaylin getting the immunity. Yeah, goes to show that there's something to this girl. It's going to be real interesting to see how a bunch of these people come to prominence as the merge goes along here, but there's only 5 regular episodes after this and then the finale, so maybe I'm not going to get as much of that as I want to. We'll see. Come on. Really. I mean, like, Survivor South Africa, Island of Secrets, they had 21 people in 39 days, and yet they managed to structure the boots enough that one person seemed to be eliminated in every single episode all the way to the end. And sure, there were a lot of people at the merge who I'm like, okay, who is this again? Yeah, I recognize you by face, and yet they managed to do really good with that. So it's just a bummer that the US version can't keep up with that, although of course that would mean having longer seasons, because Survivor South Africa, the way that works is that that show is just renewed whenever the heck the network in charge of it seems to feel like renewing it, whereas for US, obviously, they're trying to make 2 of those things a year, so you can only have them be so long, because you do need a break, especially since CBS really wants it to be Survivor, Big Brother, Survivor, and then you've got Winter. I don't know what the deal is with Amazing Race, and like even Big Brother Canada, they make room for Survivor, because towards the end of the season they actually say, we're not airing an episode on this particular day like we normally would, it's the day after, because the Survivor finale is happening. Right. Chris doing that move to take everybody to the well, it has its pluses and minuses. It could work or it could really backfire, and the indication is that it really backfired, although Dom and Nick really didn't seem to be doing that much. Yeah, and like Wendell, his attitude this episode, not really feeling it, because like you would have gotten the idea that this guy would be a top pick of mine to win, but with this episode I don't think I'm gonna do that, just because there's just something about him. And even then, hypothetical, say he gets to like top 7, unless he has really strong personal bonds with the other people there, he's like the ultimate person to get rid of in that situation. Huh? Yeah, so, like with Co-Ron, I think we actually need to be focusing on people that aren't as prominent. Although, of course, it could come to bite me, but if it does, whatever. It's just a prediction, right? Yeah. I already mentioned Dom's speech at the Tribal. I already mentioned the Idol play. I think technically it was the better idea to play the Legacy Advantage rather than the Idol, because, you know, Legacy Advantage, you can only do it so many times, and who knows, they might not bring it back, because the Legacy Advantage previously has only been used the last time it can be used. That'll be interesting. I was surprised that Chris got as many votes as he did, but whatever, we've seen that kind of action from Michael before, and I guess other people like Sebastian and somebody else who was pissed off at Dominic nonetheless just decided, I think the tide's against us. Let's not make any more waves and try and sneak this through and hope that it just comes to bite Dom in the butt. Yeah. So that wouldn't surprise me. Well, I managed to drag that out longer than I thought I would, although granted I did spend a couple minutes talking about airtime and Survivor South Africa, yeah. Okay, top picks to win. Well, going with the theme of people that are less prominent slash not so much on our minds, I think my three picks, I'm going to go with Kaylin, because, you know, she's got a good brain in there. And she's got decent airtime. Being more random with this one, I'll go with Angela. Third pick. Having a tough time deciding between the black chick and Chelsea. I'll go with the black chick just because she's gotten more airtime. Sorry that I don't know her name, but I had a tough time remembering who Sebastian was, so you know what I mean? Yeah, see ya.